My name is Subhan Akbar Khan, and I'm currently studying in A1, now moving into A2, studying at SICAS. I'm a co-founder of an NGO called Harley Just The Jew, that means Struggles of the Present, along with two of my friends from different schools. We founded the organization right as we were transitioning out of the COVID era. So one of the biggest issues that we faced or we identified from the COVID era was the misuse of social media, particularly with regards to misinformation and how easy it became to spread misinformation. So despite all of the benefits that social media did provide in terms of freedom of speech, etc., we still felt like misinformation, because it was rooted in rhetoric, could be spread very easily using good graphics, etc., and by making it seem interactive. So that's where the idea of Harley Just The Jew was born out of. That all of these struggles that are going on around the world have so much misinformation associated with them that oftentimes people end up making beliefs based off of wrong information or wrong facts. And so we decided that there was a need for an organization that raised awareness and used social media in such a manner so as to make it interactive, to ensure that that information could not only be accurate, but also one that people wanted to digest. In this sense, Harley Just The Jew wasn't necessarily something that was entirely unique, because you do have other organizations also doing this stuff. But we felt like market space for such content was still largely untapped, because you had very few organizations doing this work, or even if they were doing this work, there was oftentimes a lack of attention being given to them because maybe people didn't find the information interesting, or again, rhetoric was something they were much more likely to be swayed by. So the key idea then became to integrate social media with the awareness that we wanted to spread, to ensure that the information was also being spread in a manner that we were able to inculcate things like graphic designing, etc., to ensure that people actually wanted to read information. Idea was initially conceived in June of 2021, and we've been running the organization now for about 4 months. We have about 40 volunteers from Multan, Karachi, and then largely from Lahore. And initially, most of our work was rooted in the digital space, in raising awareness regarding different struggles. So for instance, we recently covered the devaluation of the Pakistani rupee that had a lot of political narratives associated with them, even though the devaluation was purely linked to economic causes. And so the idea then was to try and ensure that people knew the actual reasons for why devaluation took place, so as to not form political beliefs associated on narratives or rhetoric. And in that sense, I think we've been very successful, because initially we didn't believe that people would actually be reading content, or even if there were, the impact would be very less or would be mitigated. But the response that we've got has actually been very overwhelming, in that there's actually a market space for this kind of content and people actually want to read it. And so that then inspired us to move out of the digital space and then now also start working on ground and in the physical space as well. And so now we have a second wing too that deals with physical work as well. So for instance, we did a ration drive, or recently we've carried out a book drive. Again, these are things that NGOs are doing in the status quo. But we think that because the market space is still largely untapped, there's still a lot of room for other organizations to come up and also to do this work and to contribute. Simply because of the scale at which misinformation exists, there's a lot of room for people like us, especially people who have a privileged background, in that we're getting a good education, to then come forward and to use that education in a manner that we're able to counteract that misinformation by grouping our social capital together. So in that sense, I think we've been very successful with what we've been trying to achieve. And now moving into the physical realm, which is new for us because we've only just starting, but we're hoping to make an impact on ground as well. In terms of where we see the organization heading, or what the eventual aim is of the organization, the hope is that Harley Just The Jew inspires other people or other youngsters to also make their own social, or to use social media as an effective platform to be able to raise awareness regarding causes that are often either neglected by mainstream media or often have a lot of false information associated with them. And so we're all able to come together. The idea is that we'll eventually be able to combat the level of misinformation that exists in society. In terms of the organization itself, the hope is that eventually we'll get to a level where this organization will continue even after, let's say, I, who is one of the founder, leaves. And so we're working on establishing a structure that ensures that you will have people ready to take up those positions once the current batch goes out. And so in that sense, to ensure that the organization continues to work according to the roots and according to the principles that it was established for. And also, we do understand that there are certain inefficiencies associated with a student-run organization as well. And so the idea then is to hopefully, by working more and more, and by getting more experience, to be able to root out those inefficiencies and to be able to turn this into an effective organization that helps to create awareness regarding all of these issues that are currently being neglected. And so eventually we hope to be able to inspire other people to also take this up and to make use of this untapped market space to combat the issue of misinformation.